When do you think street art started in Kathmandu? I'll stick with Kathmandu for now, and definitely we'll jump into Nepal as well. When do you guys think? Anybody can feel free to jump in.
You wanna go?
Yeah, sure.
Go for it, Kiran.
I think the on when we were like kids, like
Yeah.
the only graffiti or street art that we saw was like in places that were like happening like Tamil, Pokhara, and there you could see walls that were painted by these like artists that came from abroad and had spray paint brought with them, and they had done like throw ups, they had done like tags and stuff like that, and that's the only influence that we had like back then. But nowadays, but then again, like it kind of shifted to the direction of where like people who were interested in art, who were making art already, also kind of got invested into it.
Yeah.
And that's how people started doing it here as well.
I still remember I was sharing this story back in the day. So back in the day, I had a motorcycle club, and obviously, what used to happen was like we used to modify motorcycles. Of course, it was illegal.
Yeah.
And the rims of the motorcycles had spoke wheels on them. We didn't have fancy alloy wheels back in the day. And what we used to do was we used to buy spray cans, and then we used to go out and like spray the spokes so that it was black as well. Looked fancy on the motorcycles. I still remember this like the early years. I still remember, with the spray cans, we barely had any black. I guess red. And I definitely remember a couple of guys used to go out and paint on the walls. But like you were saying, right? When we just take it and just go out and try new things, and somebody who owns that building or somebody who walks through that building is going to be like, they messed it up.
Yeah.
That's the thought process that people have of somebody with holding a spray can. Even in Kathmandu, I'm sure that's what people were thinking. Like, these kids are just messing up the walls. But now, obviously, things have changed here as well, I'm sure, of the perspective of people.
It's kind of interesting in a space right now because when you look at it historically, in a sense, it's kind of similar to what was happening in the US during the early 70s, let's say. Because nowadays there are more kids tagging out there. Like 10 years back, like 5 years ago, every tag that I would see, I would know the person who was tagging it. But now you have so many kids tagging out there. I like barely know half of them. And I think that's a very interesting point that we are in because we started off as doing graffiti, but then again, we did it for a very short period of time. And then we moved on to street art and making murals and all of that. But now there are kids who are in their younger years, very interested in like graffiti and like just like tagging everywhere. And so there is this conversation going in the community where like people accept street art to a certain degree, but graffiti, they don't really like it. So and the conversation is like endless on like why we only should have street art and not graffiti art, and I think that's a very biased opinion in a way.
अब नेपालको कन्टेक्समा चाहिँ जस्तै अघि त्यो स्ट्रिट आर्ट कहिलेबाट सुरु भयो भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ होइन जस्तै द टर्म इट सेल्फ चाहिँ आई डोन्ट नो वेन इट स्टार्टेड बट लाइक वी स्टार्टेड इन 2000 एन्ड एन्ड अफ द 2010 एन्ड देन बिगिनिङ अफ 2011 होइन सो तर हामीले चाहिँ जहिले पनि के सोच्थ्यो भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ एज अ स्टुडियो प्र्याक्टिसनर ब्याक देन होइन त्यो बेलामा सो कन्फाइन्ड स्पेसमा काम गर्ने आर्टिस्ट भएकोले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ त्यो पब्लिक स्पेसमा आउनुपर्छ भन्ने मोटिभेसन चाहिँ एक्चुली त्यो बेलाको त्यो पोलिटिकल स्लोगन्सहरूले इन्सपायर गर्थ्यो कि
Oh, wow.
होइन सो अल काठमाडौँ युज टु बी टु रेड अल ओभर राइट द पोलिटिकल स्लोगन्स एन्ड द्याट वाज अल्सो काइन्ड अफ आई युज टु पर्सिभ एज perceive as Nepali graffiti actually, but used by political parties to kind of put their propaganda in the public spaces. Okay?
So interesting.
So that was beautifully written. Political parties used to kind of hire artists, commercial artists to write these beautiful slogans, aesthetically so pleasing in a way, but the content was completely different, the very political and then very propagandist.
Give me an example,
So,
if you remember.
For example, के अरे खुला मन जाउँ अनिखेर सहभागी बनाऊँ or something like that.
or more
Like
like-
provoking people to
or,
kind
more
of
or more like यो गतेको बन्द सफल
बन्द
पारौँ।
सफल
Yeah.
पारौँ
Yeah.
and then or बन्दको लागि सहभागी बनाऊँ or like somewhere like provoking people's like innocent people's mind through those kind of calligraphy letters, so which can be perceived in a different form of political graffiti, let's say, you know. So that's one part, but also there was other artist, very well-known artist in Space Invader, चाहिँ 2008 तिर काठमाडौँको सिटीमा देखिन्छ क्या हैन. सो त्यस पछाडि चाहिँ
Who is this artist again?
Space Invader is
Space Invader.
very popular artist actually.
Okay.
So you can see a lot of small the mosaic piece त्यो के भन्छ games को.
Yeah, so the game, like Space Invader game,
Shit, you're losing me.
so it's like a 8-bit game,
Before your
Oh
time.
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
So
I think like you can really spot it when you walk from Bhothaiti all the way to like Asan Indrachok, and from that, if you walk towards Thamel,
Yeah.
you will really spot it. In
Are you
that
talking about
person.
this?
yeah.
exactly.
Exactly.
perfect.
Okay,
Exactly.
cool. Yeah.
So you will spot a lot of these.
But I mean, many of the artists didn't know about this is artwork, you know, done by very well-known artist, Space Invader. So that was that I personally noticed in 2008 around. You know, after that, I saw two prominent artists. One is Bruno Levy from America, and another is like Mr. K, and then one Rainbow Warrior. Like they are like they practice underground actually.
Okay.
So all this underground movement. You know? So if you that was the first artwork that I saw in Kathmandu Valley, and also Eti, so Bruno's wife
Yeah.
or partner, I don't know. So उहाँहरूको आर्टवर्क देख्दाखेरि चाहिँ so I read one article by Surup Nasizu,
Okay.
so in Kathmandu Post, reimagining the street of Kathmandu or something like that. त्यो खालको. So that was the first article that I read in newspaper, national newspaper about street art actually. So I haven't read any tomes before that in the media. So and then later in 2011, end of the 2010 and beginning of the 2011, we initiated street art project through social media, inviting people to come and join and then speak loud during the day. त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसन त्यो एसेम्ब्ली बसिरहेको बेलामा त्यो कन्स्टिट्युसन बन्ने दिनमा चाहिँ हामीले let's come together and then speak through our own language, that is art, in the public space, because that the whole slogan त्यो बेलाको त्यो मुभमेन्टको हाम्रो त्यो के भन्छ title was We Make the Nation, because the idea was like if you just be honest on your work and practice what you do, then you actually build the nation, you know. So as artists you can do art, right? So that's how we started. So this is what I know actually personally, मेरो side, but as a street as you mentioned, street art को कुरा गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ.
This program is brought to you by Vyas Studios.
Thank you very much for supporting the podcast so far. And if you want to see more content, more shows, then make sure that you subscribe to our channel.